From the wastelands of the internet, once again I have come to bring you a weekend wrap-up of the news, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, a weekend wrap-up of the news. How we all doing today? I see that TM, I see you in the chat. Nice to see you. Right? There's a lot of stories, and when I mean there's a lot of stories, I mean there are a lot of stories. All right. For those who want to join me today, if you wish to pop on in into my Discord and pop on in, feel free. But like I said, there's a lot of stories. Let's get started. Prince Harry and Meghan. I love how they put that. Prince Harry and Meghan. She's not, she's she's a sidelight now. All right, which that's gotta tear her up because she is such a narcissist. Prince Harry and Meghan made a getaway in a New York City taxi after being trailed by the paparazzi. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan were trailed in their car by photographers as they left a New York City charity event Tuesday night, briefly taking refuge at a police station before being whisked away in a yellow taxicab. The pursuit and media frenzy evoked memories of the 1997 car chase through Paris that killed Harry's mother, Princess Diana, though in this case, police said no one was hurt. And it's unfortunate that Jensen couldn't be with us here today, folks, because, well, I kind of asked him, what was there not a tunnel around that you were looking for? Did you guys just not have a tunnel that's available to you? There are tunnels in New York, you know. No, I'm not wishing anything bad on either one of these two people. But look, the fact that the AP did this, right? AP is a British outlet. We don't care, okay? The paparazzi, nobody cares. Seriously, why are you chasing these two? Nobody cares about them in the United States. Who cares? Unless they're really doing something of note, which at this point in time, neither of them are planning to do. Why chase them? I'm just putting it out there. Now, let's get to some really news. Hey, Bobby V. Let's get to some real news, some important news. From the Sun, Vlad jet down. Ukraine uses U.S.-made Patriot missile system to shoot down Putin's jet inside Russia in shock escalation. A Russian jet and other aircraft were shot down on their own soil, right? Reportedly struck by Ukraine's powerful Patriot missile system. Oh, it's Ukraine's powerful Patriot missile system. It's not the U.S.'s powerful Patriot missile system. It's Ukraine's. Putin's Air Force is said to have suffered one of its worst days since the war began as the Ukrainians, supposedly, appear to amp up its offense. And you can see a plane being shot down. It looks like a helicopter being shot down. You can see the Patriot battery. I don't know. There's a lot of U.S. flags here. Okay. I see an Israeli flag as well, which is kind of interesting. So I doubt that this is a picture of the Patriot battery actually in the Ukraine. Okay. It says that it reportedly hit two jets, an Su-34 and an Su-35, and two Mi-8 helicopters. So why am I bringing this up? Well, I want to bring it up so that we can talk about this next story, just to show you what's really going on here. Zelensky and private plots bold attacks inside of Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has won the trust of Western governments by refusing to use the weapons they provided for attacks inside Russia. Really? And prioritizing targeting of Russian forces inside Ukraine's borders. But behind closed doors, the Ukraine leader has proposed going in a more audacious direction, occupying Russian villages to gain leverage over Moscow, bombing a pipeline that transferred Russian oil to Hungary, a NATO member, and privately pining for long-range missiles to hit targets inside the Russia's border, according to a classified U.S. intelligence document. And this combined, okay, okay, I haven't missed much. No, you haven't missed anything. All right, this combined with the British giving them Storm Shadow cruise missiles, and I want to reiterate this, folks. The idea that these missiles will only go 100 miles or so is just nonsense. Okay, these are not short-range missiles. They're not long-range missiles. They are medium range, but they've got a lot more range than is being reported. All right, and this is a concern. This is a concern, especially when just recently Joe Biden has authorized the sale of F-16 fighter jets to the Ukrainians. We should never give the Ukrainians the F-16 platform. I don't care what other jets you want to give them, all right, except for successful American hardware should not be delivered this way. Now, I can hear it now. No man, but they're already giving them the Patriot missile systems. Okay. The Patriots have been given to a lot of different countries. All right. They are a threat, as was shown, to aircraft. All right. But how many Patriot batteries do you need to actually secure an area? One isn't going to do it. Okay? A single Patriot battery is very limited. 5 Patriot batteries are very limited, to be honest. And they have a range, don't get me wrong. This was proven just now in that first story. The Patriot battery range can reach out and touch things. All right? There's easy ways to mitigate it. And the concern that I'm hearing and the concern that I'm seeing from people is we are giving the Ukrainians these systems, and they're causing a lot of damage to Russia, the Russian movements, okay? And everyone goes, hooray! Great! Well, what's concerning about that? People learn. What the Russians are learning right now is that their philosophy of combat warfare with somebody else with similar airframes doesn't work. That their doctrines, all right, on how to proceed within a multi-role or a combined arms environment is seriously flawed. So what's the result? The Russians learn, hey, well, let's try to do other things to find out what works. So an enemy that we had a massive advantage on, not just technologically, but doctrinally, we no longer have. We no longer have this massive advantage anymore. All because they're being shown how to actually work within this environment in a combat arms environment. They're becoming a more lethal force as a result. It is today, May 20th. For the past 3 months, since February, we've been hearing about this buildup for a Ukrainian counteroffensive to throw the Russians out of Crimea, out of the Donetsk region. There's going to be this big, massive push. Hey, Maddie, if you want to come in, feel free. Right? Just come into Discord. You know where I'm at. I'm not hard to find. All right? But this massive advantage now is being reduced as a result. And it's unfortunate. It truly is unfortunate. All right? The Russians are going to learn. But this Ukrainian counteroffensive that they've been talking about this spring, there's going to be a Ukrainian counteroffensive. I think spring has sprung. We are about a week away from the official start of summer? 1 week away? No, I'm not all for this war. And I'm not for the Russians winning. I'm not for the Russians losing. This is a civil war, in my opinion, between the Russians, all right, and forces within Russia. You can say what you want about the Ukrainians and everything else. From my perspective, this is a civil war more than anything else. And we don't have enough of a dog in this fight to where we need to be spending American treasure and American forces, and especially ramping up by trying to give F-16s over to the Ukrainians. Now, the F-16s are, yes, they're an older generation airframe. That's fine. That's fine, man. If you can't make it, right? But the problem is, and when we do have given F-16s is not going to harm things. But if we were going to give F-16s, I would rather us give the F-16s to Poland and let them then shift all the hardware, all right, the old Soviet hardware airframes that they've been using to the Ukrainians that way. I do not believe we need to be given F-16s to the Ukrainians. Because eventually they'll end up in the hands of the Russians. Just pointing it out there. Now we have this story. All right. DeSantis may have met his day or his match in Disney's Iger as both sides dig in. And then from CNN, DeSantis land is likely not the happiest place on earth Thursday as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis gears up for an expected jump into the 2024 presidential race next week. His powerful adversary, Disney, trampled his pre-launch buzz by scratching a $1 billion plan for an office campus that could have brought 2,000 jobs to the state. All right, now they're trying to say that DeSantis has ruined 2,000 more jobs from Disney going to Florida. Really? That's what all this is about. That DeSantis is trembling because 2,000 Disney jobs have no longer been headed for there, huh? Well, okay. How about this? Disney World's costly Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, all right, to close in late December. This was announced the exact same day. Disney's Star Wars' Galactic Star Cruiser, a 2-day hotel experience, is closing and will make its final voyage this September after being open for only more than a year. The experience blends elements of the company's resorts, cruise lines, and theme parks into a 48-hour romp in space. First teased during Disney's D23 Expo in 2019, the Galactic Star Cruiser, located near the company's Orlando, Florida-based Disney World Resort, opened in March of 2022. The voyage costs around $1,200 per person per day. Okay? and $6,000 for reaching a $6,000 for a 2-day excursion. Now, I just want to point out 2 days and in a family package it's $6,000 for the 2-day excursion is $2,400 for the immersion as a single person. I assume a family package is a family of 4, right? And they're saying you get a little bit of a discount in that $6,000. Okay, the concept behind this was unique. I will give Disney that. But they ensured that it was going to be shit. Due to Kathleen Kennedy making sure that the way they were going to approach it was not from the perspective of the original Star Wars trilogy. No, they were going to use the latest series of Star Wars, right? And so nobody wants this. The people who wanted to see it for a first time, yeah, it was good, but it was too expensive for the average person, the average person to sit there and enjoy. And what's more is you're 2 days stuck in a hotel. Think about that. So it's a unique experience. I'll give them that. It was a unique try, but it was overpriced. All right. The special effects that were part of the show and the experience and everything were underwhelming. And the idea of an immersive type of thing like this would have been grand, okay, for a type of flow through experience, but not for a stop and go experience. Okay, and when you bring in the aspect of we're going to use Reylo, all right, as the primary draw, nobody wants that. Nobody wants it. The people who want it are the super rich, which is what this was supposed to cater to, by the way, folks. The problem with this is that the super rich are going to be interested in going to see it a single time if they're interested in Star Wars at all. So you already limited your customer base, people that you're going to have come to this, to a small segment of society. Not only did they have to be rich, which took away a lot of people to begin with, you then had to sit up there and go, they had to be interested in Star Wars. They were the ones that wanted to go into this thing. They were the ones who wanted to see this. But once they saw it, okay, is there a reason to go back? It had to be so freaking phenomenally mind blowing, all right, that it would cause people to want to go back through it again, to experience it again, to go through that experience again. If you couldn't provide that, it was a failed business model, and it's closed. Disney is not doing well from a business perspective. Disney is in bad shape. The whole idea, of the premise of the media trying to sit there and go, "Oh, this is a war with DeSantis, and DeSantis is losing," is just myopic and stupid. Disney decided because of Bob Iger to step into politics. And the result is Disney is suffering massive losses. And it's going to get worse, folks, before it gets better. But they're not the only ones struggling. Rich people and influencers. Who were the, let me ask you a question, Maddie. Who were the influencers influencing? All right? Let's be honest. If influencers influencing what? It reminds me. Let me paraphrase from Spaceballs. Ah, suck on this. Ludicrous speed now. Influence? Who are they trying to influence? Let's be honest. The people that you want, when you talk about an influencer is a young person, okay. In the way that they're looking at it from a media influencer, it's a young person who has made a name for themselves on social media. Now, in business, there was always influencers in a different manner, right? You had people like Warren Buffett and a few others. These guys were big players in the market, so they're influencers in that regard. Okay, but as far as influencers for the young people, and I know Disney has a bad reputation that they've garnered over the past 40 years, basically, and this is the unfortunate result. Okay, I keep trying to explain to people what changed with Disney, and Disney changed when Michael Eisner came in. Okay, people forget about good old Mike, but Michael Eisner really revamped Disney, all right, so that it wasn't totally focused on family media entertainment anymore because he felt that they needed to expand. That sure they had their market with Mickey and so forth, but if they wanted to go forward in the future, they needed to be able to expand into these new areas. And he began that expansion with Touchstone Pictures. Okay, um, and you can trace things from there. Bob Iger, when he came in, thought of this as a platform for himself to run for politics, and he's still doing it, folks. He doesn't give a rat's ass about Disney. He really doesn't. Now, positive thing for Bob Iger. Bob Iger did begin the process and really went through the process of revamping Disney's animation studios in a positive way in many ways. $50,400 would let you attend music parts for a long time. Yes, yes, it is. Yes, it will. Like I said, though, I'm not totally against the Galactic Star Cruiser. It's just the way they implement it, which is horrible. But it's not the only ones that are suffering in the media. Vice Media files for bankruptcy. Say it isn't so. All right, to enable sale to lenders, including Soros. Why would Soros buy something he already owns? Once the digital media darling, Vice Media Group on Monday filed for bankruptcy protection after years of financial troubles. A consortium of Vice's lenders, which include Fortress Investment, Soros' Fund Management, and Monroe Capital, is looking to acquire the company following the filing. In other words, Soros wants to take this over because it's his company. And he thinks he can run it. The Vice's days are gone. They're gone, folks. They truly are. Um, you just got to question these people as to what they're thinking. You really do. The media landscape has shifted and changed dramatically. And one of the people who's done the most to do it, to change it right now, okay, is Elon Musk. Because when Twitter and these social media companies were expanding and so forth, everything was okay until their true selves started to show, where they're authoritarian. I'm going to tell you what to think. I'm going to tell you how to live, and don't you dare dispute me. Attitude took over. And I'm not saying Elon Musk, all right, is the great grand savior of the First Amendment because he's not. But he did revamp the idea with the fights that are going on, and the loss of alternative news has caused a reaction that's killing Vice, because Vice is now being seen. In fact, all the media companies are being seen for what they are, political shills. And so people are ignoring them. The other thing, of course, is they're focusing less on truth and more on entertainment, which is another issue in and of itself. Got to remember that. All right, on to the next story. I want to make a snide comment here. The DOJ announces former Apple engineer with theft, or charges, excuse me. DOJ charges former Apple engineer with theft of autonomous car tech for China. A former Apple software engineer was charged with stealing Apple's autonomous technology for a Chinese self-driving car company, the Department of Justice announced on Tuesday. Weibao Wang worked as a software engineer at Apple from 2016 to 2018, a DOJ indictment said. Wang worked on Apple's annotation team and was granted broad access to databases which the Justice Department said it could only be accessed by 2,700 of Apple's 135,000 employees. Wang is the third former Apple employee to be accused of stealing autonomous trade secrets for China. Wang has been charged with 6 separate counts involving the theft or attempted theft of Apple's entire autonomy source code, tracking systems, behavior planning for autonomous systems, and descriptions of the hardware that was behind the system. Now, I know what a lot of people are saying. Well, okay, the DOJ is finally getting tough with China. The DOJ is really going after him. Except, later on in this article, it goes on to reveal Wang was allowed to flee the country just recently. Right here, folks. The law enforcement executed a search warrant of Wang's home in California on June 27, 2018, where they found large quantities of stolen, confidential, and proprietary and the indictment alleges. Wang was able to flee the country even after law enforcement executed the search, despite promising that he wouldn't. Really? So, in other words, the Biden Justice Department, or in this case, the Justice Department as a whole, because 2018 was technically under Trump. The Justice Department executes a search warrant on a possible spy and doesn't take him into custody. Really? Spy after spy after spy from China. Drivers for Dianne Feinstein, sleeping with Swalwell, right? Stealing secrets directly because they couldn't get enough from the secrets that they steal from creating the iPhones. And you still think, well, okay, there's nothing wrong with just letting them out of the country. Really? Oh, I missed another Disney thing. I'm not going to go into it. Really? That's a surprise to you. Let's switch gears. Folks. Yeah, it is a kick in the pants. It really is. Jada Pickett Smith says white supremacy responsible for Cleopatra's terrible audience score. You're complaining it's terrible audience score. What about its critic score? Don't get me wrong. The terrible audience score is like what, 2%? All right, but the critic score isn't a whole lot better. It's 11. All right. Jada Pinkett Smith says she blames white supremacists for the flop of her new Netflix docudrama series, Queen Cleopatra, which has one of the worst audience ratings in the U.S. television history. The show has an abysmal 1% approval score, and it's caused a huge backlash in Egypt by inaccurately portraying Cleopatra as a black woman. Okay, let's stop here for a moment. Okay, the the problem isn't the portrayal, okay, of Cleopatra by a black woman. Okay? Now, I know there's a lot of people they're bitching about blackwashing and things like that, but the real problem with this show has absolutely nothing to do with who's portraying who. It has everything to do with rewriting history as it actually took place. Cleopatra was born, all right, around 69 to 70 BC. Okay. And there was a power struggle that she had with her brother, all right, that took place about who's going to rule. And her brother, because of how the lineages dealt with things, had the better case for taking charge. So it was a type of civil war that was going on. And her brother, okay, was winning. Understand this. Her brother held the best cards until Caesar. Until the arrival of Julius Caesar. Okay? We all know that she was Greek and Macedonian. She wasn't black. These people will do anything to change that. No, that's true too. But that's the problem. Is that not only do they want to make Cleopatra black, by saying that she was black, okay, which she was Macedonian, all right. She came from the Ptolemaic. The Ptolemaics were ruling Egypt at this time, okay. Now, and even the average not Ethiopian, excuse me, Egyptian was fairly light skinned in comparison to the Ethiopians or the Nubians. Right, Nubians or Numidians on the there was Nubia, there was Numidia, which were two powerful black African contingents. Okay, one in the east, one in the west, or down in the south rather. The Nubians in the south. Right. So that to me is less the problem though than the fact that you're trying to claim that this history is Black American history for Cleopatra. That's a problem. But like I said, Cleopatra herself wasn't really her ruler. Okay, she was fighting with her brother, and her brother had some issues. Okay, I'm not going to deny that. But she was fighting with her brother until the arrival of Julius Caesar. And what did she do? Okay, in order to gain an audience with Julius Caesar, the most powerful man at the time in the region. If you know the story, she smuggled herself out of the palace where she was being basically hemmed in by her brother. Her brother was not letting her go out to do things. She literally smuggled herself out by wrapping herself in a I don't want. Wasn't a blanket. It was a rug, right, or carpet, however you want to talk about this, which they were delivering as tribute they, to Caesar. And when they unrolled the carpet, out popped Cleopatra. Okay, by all accounts, Caesar was taken with Cleopatra and decided to back her claim as ruler of Egypt, which then brought Roman forces into conflict with the Ptolemaic forces done by her brother. And the Ptolemaic forces outnumbered them. And if it wasn't for Caesar's skill and the fact that the Roman military, right, was as adept as it was, they almost all died. People, you need to study just what happened with this. But what she was able to do was, once her brother was put down with the help of the Romans, she was then declared the ruler of Egypt. Now, Cleopatra herself is a phenomenal woman, all right, in a lot of ways from a historical standpoint. You cannot deny it. Okay? You got to look at the fact that Cleopatra on her own decided to learn Egyptian. She was the first ruler who could speak the native language of the people she was ruling. Her brother, who she was fighting with, could not. He spoke Greek. So the whitewashing that we're talking about, or the blackwashing, or white, whatever you want to talk about with this, it's not that. It's the fact that you don't want to tell her true story. Why? I don't care who the actor or actress is. Tell the true story about this woman, though. She was a brilliant woman in all regards. There's some debate about how pretty she was. Some people say that she was very gorgeous. Other people say, eh. What attracted people to her was her personality, which dominated things. Right? The people inside of Rome didn't like her. Right? They thought that she was a, lack of a better term, temptress. Right? And she had designs through her son to, quite frankly, the entire Rome. All right, after she had her son from Julius Caesar, she was thinking about putting her son on the throne and therefore rule the Roman Empire through her son. She had those kinds of designs. And after Caesar died, she took up with Caesar's greatest and most loyal supporter, Mark Antony. But Cleopatra herself, her story is stands the test of time for what it is. But what it isn't African American history. It's not. It's African history. Okay? And if you kept it as just regular history, people back in the time frames that you're talking about, let me explain so that people understand things. Rome had gone to war with Carthage. Okay, for the people who don't know what Carthage is in the northern part of Africa, around the Tunisia area. Okay, where did the Carthaginians come from? Well, the Carthaginians were a city-state initially from the Phoenician states of Tyre, Sidon, the Arab regions. Okay, however, considering where they were, the Carthaginians' land military relied upon other kingdoms, the Numidian kingdoms specifically. And the Numidians, they were black. The Romans had a lot of respect for the Numidian cavalry. the Numidian cavalry. I'm sorry, I said the word wrong. Yes, and I did see that, by the way. Metreon, who is someone who also talks about a lot of Roman history because he's originally Italian. They demonetized his entire channel because he wasn't playing he wasn't playing the game of, all right, we gotta play the leftist wokeness game for these things, right? So, and it's unfortunate because the Metreon, if you look at the Metreon, some great individual work of history, and he talks about a lot of the language and stuff, and how this stuff worked. But you have to understand history, okay? The Romans often had a lot of interracial marriages overseas, okay? There were a lot of quote unquote intermixing of the races on the peripheries of the empire. Within the empire itself, however, you had very much the traditionalists of, okay, here's my Roman lineage going back to XYZ, all right, of being on the peninsula. So the people on the peninsula didn't necessarily appreciate the people from the colonial groups. Kind of like the way the Brits don't appreciate Americans because we're still colonials. Okay. Now, the greatest Carthaginian that everyone talks about is Hannibal. If you take a look at contemporary images of Hannibal, okay, you will see influences from like the Berbers and so forth. All right. It's I'm not saying he was black, in the black in the sense that we talk about African Americans, okay, but you can tell that there was that obviously his family lineage includes a large groups of wherever he was. Now he himself, all right, Hannibal was part of the Carthaginian Empire, but it was Carthaginian Empire that ruled Spain at the time. His family base was in Spain, and the silver mines of Spain gave him the uh, the basis of where he began his power play as he took over Carthage, and then then went on his let's march across the Alps to get into Italy where I can rampage on the Italian peninsula for the next 20 years. Now Carthage failed Hannibal. All right, it's interesting that we wouldn't be talking so much about the Roman Empire if it wasn't for the fact that the Carthaginians failed to support Hannibal the way he needed to get support. All right, because look, if 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 it wasn't for the fact that Hannibal had to eventually lost after 18 years roaming up and down the Italian plain, okay, we might be speaking Carthaginian or Phoenician. But Jada Pinkett Smith always sits up there and plays the victim. We got to be a victim. I'm a victim. She's a victim. All right? She was a victim of Chris Rock making a comment. She's a victim. No, she put out a bad piece of crap, all right, that's based on not on history, but on what somebody wants from their view of today's society. She was trying to make history fit today's society and not understand how today's society was created from the history in the past. All right, she tried to do it the other way. That's why nobody likes the docudrama. Right? It's not. I guarantee you, it's not because they put a black actress as Cleopatra. It didn't help matters that you tried to point out and then tried to back up by having people come out. Well, yeah, Cleopatra had to be black. Okay, well, you want to start the fight? Okay, that was dumb. Why can't we just let actors and actresses be actors and actresses? Let's go back to a story from jolly old England, right? And an American company. There appears to be some demonstrations in Michigan, huh? I'll have to take a look at that later. Let's talk about this. An IT worker who had been on sick leave for 15 years sued IBM for not raising his $67,000 salary while he was off work. Now, the judge threw out the case, but still, okay, a British IT worker who has been on sick leave since 2008 sued IBM for not giving him a pay raise during the time he was off work. But an employment judge struck down the case, saying that the claims did not amount to a disability discrimination and that, if anything, the worker had received favorable treatment. Really? Ian Clifford, 50, started sick leave in September of 2008 for mental health related reasons and was still off work in 2013, having been diagnosed with stage 4 leukemia when he raised a grievance that he had not been paid or received a salary increase or vacation pay during those 5 years. Now, this is when he started the case, was April 2013. A decade later, we finally get a result? In April of 2013, Clifford reached a compromise agreement with IBM that meant that he was put on the company's sickness and accident plan, which entitled him to receive 75% of his salary until he retired or otherwise ceased to be on the plan. So this guy was getting 75% of his pay for not showing up for work for an entire decade. And it doesn't say this, but I'll bet that he was still on their insurance plan, and that IBM's insurance was covering the costs of his medical treatments, which they should. Okay, I'm not going to deny that. But in February of 2022, Clifford took IBM to the Employment Tribunal with a disability discrimination claims, all right, similar to those in his 2013 agreement. In other words, he wasn't getting enough money. He still wanted more. Now he's 50, okay? He's receiving $67,000 per year. So 75% of his salary was $67,000 a year. Amazing. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to sue them again." The fact is, how did this even be allowed to be taken into court? That's the first question that I have. Thanks, Tim. I'll take a look at it a little later. Montana governor bans TikTok. Yeah, the governor did it. Okay. Montana Governor Greg Guilford signed a bill. Okay, Montana itself banned TikTok, not the governor. He just signed a bill into law. All right, banning TikTok in the state. Guilford tweeted that he had banned TikTok in Montana to protect Montanans, all right, personal and private data from the Chinese Communist Party, officially making it the first state to ban the social media application. The controversial law marks the furthest step yet by a state government to restrict TikTok over perceived security concerns, and comes as some federal lawmakers have called for a national ban of TikTok. But it is expected to be challenged in court. No shit, really? I can tell you right now, all right, why the federal government put pressure on Montana to ban TikTok, to create this controversy so they can eventually ban TikTok, all right, completely. Because TikTok is being run by the Communist Party in China. There's no doubt about that. to the detriment of Americans. But Montana has some critical areas that are part of our national defense that the government was really concerned with. All right. And so they went out of their way to try and get this to do this. Now, it's also because of this. A disturbing TikTok trend sees a group of young men storm into random people's houses while filming their reactions. Police are investigating after one clip showed a father telling the intruders, "I've got kids," as he pleads with them to leave his home. The Metropolitan Police are investigating a disturbing social media trend that has seen youths storm into random houses or homes uninvited. One TikTok user who has since deleted his account, received widespread backlash on social media after posting a video of himself entering a family home uninvited with a group of friends. The video, which Mail Online, has blurred to protect the privacy of the homeowners, begins with him and the two friends posing to the camera saying, "Walking into some random houses. Let's go." In since deleted footage, the group walks through a black gate, ignoring a woman in the front garden before letting themselves into the London home. Despite the woman shouting, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" the teens walk through the door, the ajar door, as the woman calls to someone inside the home. Dude, if you spread this kind of stupid mentality in the United States, it won't be the guy saying, "Get out of the house." All right? You just start walking into random people's homes here in the U.S., and the result isn't going to be what you expect. Okay? Oh, it'll be on the news. It will definitely make the news. But not the way you think. Not the way you think. There'll be lots of blaring sirens and stuff that happen as a result. Just putting it out there. This is stupid. You're going to go in there and try and terrorize some family that you don't know just because you think it's a lark? You're going to end up dead, folks. Argentina. Okay. Argentina is suffering economic carnage. This hardliner thinks she has the solution. Really? Okay. As a former Argentine security minister, Patricia Bullrich, is best known for her record of cracking down on drugs and violent crime. Now she is trying to convert that steely reputation into votes for the presidency of a country on the edge of the economic precipice. Hey, Mitch. To be clear, some owners should do this. Oh, one need not inform the police. Mitch, you shouldn't be encouraging people here. You're not helping matters by encouraging this. All right, just put it out there. By the way, you now have a wrench. You have been successfully wrenched. Back to Argentina, shall we? With Argentina seeking deeper into turmoil as annual inflation exceeds 100% and its currency tumbles in value, Burrich says the nation is crying out for her kind of hardline approach to address its spiraling challenges. Polling suggests voters might agree. Look, this is communism, folks. Can you tell me a time period when Argentina wasn't on the verge of an economic crisis? It's been an economic crisis one after another. It has been bailed out by the WHO probably more than any Latin American country I can think of. Why? Because they put in somebody who says, okay, we just want to expand things, and the next thing they do is they go Evita Peron, or an Evita Peron wannabe, they bring them back, and the country goes to shit. the economy goes to hell. It needs to a change in culture from populism to rules-based capitalism. It will never change. It will never, never change. The reason for it is because everyone keeps promising the rainbow at the end of the world. And when people get it in their mindset that I can get somebody else's money and not have to work for it, and they implement policies that put that into effect, this is the result. This is the result. Argentina could be a wonderful country, folks. But communism and the communist philosophy that they go under is continued. And here's why. Here's an example of it. This woman is a communist. Oh, she may not be a member of the Communist Party, but she's a hardcore Democrat socialist. She believes in everything the communists, and this is how communists do things. Georgia prosecutor fights back against Trump's attempt to remove her from an election probe. The Georgia prosecutor, who is investigating whether Donald Trump and his allies broke any laws as they tried to overturn his 2020 election loss in the state, fought back Monday against the former president's attempt to remove her from the case and exclude certain evidence. Trump's Georgia legal team in March asked the court, this is in March, to toss out a report of a special grand jury that had been seated in the case and to prevent prosecutors from using whatever evidence or testimony stemming from the panel's investigation. They also asked the Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and her office be barred from continuing to investigate or prosecute the case. Willis responded in a filing on Monday, all right, that Trump's motion is procedurally flawed and that his arguments lack merit. What now? Everyone's like, well, yeah, well, we're trying to hold people accountable. Here's what she's letting go. I want to shoot out the windows. A female Army officer on active duty in Chicago says a squatter with a long criminal history for guns, drugs, and theft has moved into her $500,000 Atlanta home and refuses to move out. A female Army officer told how a man with a lengthy criminal record is squatting on her Atlanta-based home while she is in Chicago on active duty. Lieutenant Colonel Dahlia Dure told local media Vincent Simon, a man who has told local media, Vincent Simon, a man who has been convicted on guns, drugs, and theft charges, is living in her $500,000 home. Duarte said that she had been away from her Elwood, Georgia residence, which is a suburb of Atlanta, right, to serve her country in the Windy City, and only found out that he moved in as a home which was in the process of being sold. So this woman here, who now owns a home, can't sell her house because this guy is just squatting on it. And this guy is claiming, oh, no, I paid a lease. I paid $18,000 lease. No evidence of it. No evidence that he has given this woman any money whatsoever. There's literally no evidence. But see, he claimed that he's just renting and that he paid tens of thousands of dollars. And the prosecutor is going, well, we heard Trump's phone call. He was trying to rig an election. He was trying to rig an election. Meanwhile, your local city goes to shit. And they do nothing. They do nothing, all right, to sit up there and remove this guy. He has been served eviction papers. And yet the prosecutor, I'm after Trump. I'm after Trump. Hey, lady, if you're after Trump, and for folks, I've been kind of keeping an eye on this. If you remember correctly, they all talked about how they were going to indict Trump. They had Trump this time. They had him. And so the jury issued its recommendation. The grand jury issued its recommendation for indictments in March. And they said they were going to move rapidly. They were going to move fast. They were going to get right on it. Then why hasn't she done it? Why hasn't she moved? It's May. You had all of March, all of April, right? Most of May now. That's almost 3 months. Almost 3 months later, she still hasn't issued any indictments. Education is important. Police are not educators. That's one of my points about the Miranda laws. It's one of my points about the Miranda rules. All right, on a sad note, I'm going to talk about this gentleman for a while. Because we're now in the sports section of my little ranting and ravings. Legendary Brown running back Jim Brown dies at 87. Any debate about the greatest player in the NFL history is incomplete if Jim Brown's name isn't included. 100%. Brown, whose name is still synonymous with greatness at running back, all right, more than 50 years after his final NFL game, died Thursday at his home in Los Angeles, with his wife told the Associated Press, and the Cleveland Browns confirmed. All right, he was 87. Brown had a nearly immaculate, right, NFL career. He played 9 seasons for the Cleveland Browns and led the league in rushing 8 times. He was a Pro Bowler all 9 seasons and a first team All Pro 8 times before he abruptly retired in 1966. He had the most rushing yards and touchdowns in NFL history. And when he retired, folks, okay, when he retired, he was on top. Jim Brown was the epitome of a power running back. He was prototypical in so many ways, and he was almost impossible to stop. You had to gang tackle him. If he got into the secondary, people were terrified. There were people terrified just to tackle the man. I want you to think on that. People were afraid to tackle him because of how powerful he was and how punishing a running back is he was. And then when he left, he did become one of the leaders of civil rights. Remember, this is 1966. He did become one of the leaders of civil rights, all right, in this country. Deservedly so. He broke into Hollywood, right? Now, he wasn't the greatest actor in the world, but I'll tell you this, he's a hell of a lot better actor than a lot of these guys are. When Jim Brown broke into acting, he was a better actor, okay, right off the bat than Arnold Schwarzenegger. You take a look at Arnold Schwarzenegger's, all right, his first movies, and compare Brown's first movies, Brown was far and away a much better actor. And he was a man who kept touch with who he was. Now, did I agree with everything that Jim Brown did? No, of course not. But this is a man who truly faced real racism, not the pretend racism of today. Was he a perfect person? Of course not. Did he have quote unquote run-ins with the law with today the way the system is? Yeah, he did. For example, one time he broke the window of his wife's car, right? And they called the police, right? And he admitted that he broke the window, right? The guy was that powerful, and that was you know when he was in his 60s, I think, where he did that, right? But that doesn't mean the guy did he go out there and just start punching people. Were there other times he was accused of assault? Sure. Was there times he was accused of SA? Yeah. Do I believe it? Those cases? No. Why? Well, for one thing, there's no evidence. Now, do I believe that he had been into some physical altercations with several people at clubs and bars? All right, and so that assault, you can talk about it from assault from that standpoint. You're damn right I do. You go to a club, you go to a bar, right? Back in those days, right? There were people looking to think let's take out the toughest guy in the bar. I know guys like this. I know Jared and TM, you've known guys like this because that's the way Marines are. I'm gonna pick a fight with the biggest, toughest guy in the bar. Brown walks into the bar, and there are people looking. I'm gonna take out Jim Brown, and they're gonna start a fight with him. Do I believe that Jim Brown defended himself? Yes, I do. And he deservedly did. But this became a problem, right? Because when you're a celebrity in today's society, ow, ow, ow. And then, of course, you get these accusations of, well, he was, this woman's accusing him of rape and all these other things. Really? How honest is this? But it points to the way our society has become now. That CNN had to point out all these things instead of the greatness of the man on the field. The guy on the field was absolutely unstoppable. Today, they talk about these running backs having a 4-year career. He was in his peak at his 9th year in the league. He was at his peak. All right, people were terrified of him. He went out on top, folks. He went out on top. He was not even close to ending his career, except for the fact that he had said, "I've done everything I wanted to in the NFL." Nothing in the NFL appealed to him anymore, so he left the game and he moved on. My God, this guy was just one of the things I saw an interview one time where he said when he got tackled, right, he would always get up slowly, right, because he had been asked about why is it that you always seem to be getting up slowly? He said, I do that intentionally because I don't want people to ever know if I've ever been hurt or hit, right? To ever let the opponents know this. Okay. So he always game up counting 1, 2, 3 as he got up because he was not going to ever let them know if they'd actually dinged him up a little bit. And he ran through people like you couldn't believe. The only person from a power standpoint, not he wasn't as elusive as Brown was. That's something else that people don't talk about. But as far as power goes, the only person I ever saw on the football field that was as powerful as Jim Brown was Earl Campbell in his heyday. And besides, as a movie actor, he's in one of my favorite movies of all time, which is The Dirty Dozen. Right? There's a lot of good actors in there, but he's in The Dirty Dozen. He made a several westerns. All right, he's in movies with Clint Eastwood even. All right, the guy had a decent acting career. But he was best known for his charity work and his civil rights work, where he was constantly saying, look, if we're going to, quote unquote, make a difference in these black communities, we got to be in the black communities. For example, the man, the man was someone to be admired. Instead, they hold up people like George Floyd. It's unfortunate. Yeah, I've mostly stopped wearing anything military related because I know. All right, second story related. Las Vegas Aces coach Becky Hammon suspended after a WNBA probe. The Las Vegas Aces coach Becky Hammon has been suspended for 2 games without pay for violating the league and team workplace policies, the WNBA announced on Tuesday. Las Vegas will also lose its 2025 first round draft selection. Hammond's suspension follows an WNBA investigation into claims made by former Aces forward Derecha Hamby, who said the team discriminated against her for getting pregnant after she was traded to the Los Angeles Sparks in January. Being traded is part of the business. Being lied to and bullied, manipulated, and discriminated against is not. I've had my character and worth ethic attacked, Hamby wrote in a January Instagram post. I was promised things to entice me to sign my contract extension that were not followed through on. Look, Hamby, Derecha, you screwed your team over intentionally. You in the NBA, the one thing that nobody has to worry about is that LeBron James won't be coming out next year or for the next 2 years because he got pregnant and can't play round ball. You decided to get pregnant and expected these guys just to pay you a paycheck, all right, when you can't play. And then, of course, you got traded. And you guys in the WNBA who think that Becky Hammon did the wrong thing are full of shit. Oh, they dared to ask me if the pregnancy was planned. How could you do such a thing? Really? How could you intentionally do such a thing to the team? I hate to tell you this, but this is part of the problem with this whole instance. Well, men and women are exactly the same attitude that so many of these clowns on the left have. You think anybody's going to watch a game with somebody 4 months pregnant who can't stay on the court? What did she do? Embezzle $30 to him? I'm sorry, but I think that this is just ridiculous. This is a ridiculous story. What did you expect the coach to do? And of course, you got traded. They would do everything they could to get rid of you because you're done for 2 years. Look, the pregnancy is going to last 9 months, all right? So that's one season gone just with that. But then you got to get yourself back into playing NBA professional athletic status, right? At the same time, you're supposedly taking care of an infant and recovering from the pregnancy. Now, I have nothing against Becky or Derecha Hamby getting pregnant and deciding to have a family and things like that, but then you can't sit up there and expect that the quote unquote business, which you then placed in jeopardy, all right, is going to sit up there and go, wait a minute here. You're not giving the company anything. With all due respect, there's no reason why she shouldn't have been traded. On to ask these questions. Now, some of you know me pretty well, so you know that you've heard this before. We need to get rid of certain federal agencies. The Department of Education, it's got to go. The EPA, don't need it. And the FDA. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Got chocolate milk, kids? Washington might take it away from schools. The USDA, which is under the FDA, considers ban on flavored milk in some school cafeterias, but critics say that could lead younger children to drink less milk, which was the purpose of bringing chocolate milk into the classroom to begin with. Chocolate milk, long a school cafeteria mainstay, could be coming off the menu. Concerned about the amount of added sugar, all right, children are consuming. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, all right, is okay. The USDA is, I'm sorry, the USDA is under the Department of Agriculture, all right, is considering, that's another one that has got to go, all right, is considering banning flavored milk, including chocolate, strawberry, and other varieties in elementary and middle schools when it adopts new standards for school meals. How about you just let the schools decide what the hell the students have? Why does Washington even need to be put in place? The FBI. Yeah, the FBI, the ATF, all right, should be removed, taken out of existence as well. All right. But why is the federal government involved in whether or not somebody drinks chocolate milk or not, or strawberry milk, or regular milk? You see, you get a bunch of these clowns who come back here and go, well, I've been in Washington, so I know what's best for you. I know what the students in this area need for a well-rounded education and a need in order for them to stay awake in school, and a need. I'd be okay with revoking all federal agencies and laws except the Constitution and amendments. They will all come back eventually. So a reset every 10 years or 20 years would solve the problem. Well, if there was going to be a change to the U.S. Constitution that I really think is absolutely critical, it would be a convention of states being mandatory every 50 years. At least every 50 years, you will have a mandatory convention of states. Now, if they want to do it sooner than that, the states then can vote on it. But it should have been mandatory. That's something that should have been mandated in the Constitution. Because it would take care of that problem you're talking about, Bobby B. You don't need these federal agencies deciding who needs what kind of milk and whether or not a student's getting too much chocolate milk. All right, over to Hollywood. Cannes. I know most of you guys like Cannes. The Cannes Film Festival? Are you going to talk about Harrison Ford? No, I'm not going to talk about Harrison Ford. And I'm not going to talk about the movie that's coming out, the Indiana Jones movie, because quite frankly, I'll wait until I know more about it to make any kind of commentary on it. There's so much out there already anyway. No. The big thing about Cannes was Johnny Depp was in a movie. Right now, would I care about Johnny Depp? No, I really don't care about Johnny Depp either. So I can hear it now. No, man, what's this about? Ah, yes. French actress, writer, director Maïwenn all right, has confessed. I know I'm butchering the name, but I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. All right, to a bit of Franco-American culture class on the set of her latest movie, Jean du Barry. The Cannes opener stars Johnny Depp in his first feature film role in 3 years as Louis XV, and Ma Wen as an 18th century monarch's favorite mistress. I couldn't care less. I don't know why people think that this should be a movie people are intending to watch. This sounds like a boring ass film, all right, already. All right? So, once again, I can hear it out. Well, then what are you talking about it for? Yes. It's because of this reporter, who the reporter's name was, I'll read it right off the top of here, Rebecca Keegan. Hey, Rebecca, you need some help. Depp is another troubled male artist who has so far found a warm embrace across the pond, despite Heard's allegations of abuse, which he has denied, and two defamation trials that brought one of the most toxic moments of their marriage into public view. Thanks to a head-scratching verdict? Really? Which found both Depp and Heard had been defamed, but awarded him more money. The takeaway for many cannabis observers was a vague sense that Depp had won, but they also like him less. No, Rebecca, it's not head scratching. Okay? It wasn't a head scratching verdict at all. The head scratching verdict was the first one in Britain where he was accused of all of this. Accused of all this domestic violence and abuse by Amber Heard. And Johnny Depp's defamation that they found, okay, was, to be honest, legalistic. And as far as what the results were, there were palpable results that were obvious to Johnny Depp's career from the defamation of Amber Heard. Amber Heard hasn't lost shit. She hasn't. Aside from the fact that people don't like her and are now making fun of her, other than that, from a monetary standpoint, from a damages standpoint, she hasn't been losing movie roles or anything else that anybody can really see. The only thing that's caused people to step back, all right, and this wasn't the defamation. This was the part that was real, all right. This is why she wasn't being defamed when she was doing this. What people learned from Amber Heard was that she's very much a bomb waiting to happen. And so people are reticent now to working with her. Whereas before with Johnny Depp was being accused of being a serial wife abuser. And so they're like, I don't want this because people think he's a serial wife abuser. Which he of course denied. It wasn't head scratching at all, Rebecca. I can't stand these reporters. The problem that Rebecca has is that she's an Amber Heard ophile. Okay? Women always right. Women over always. Johnny Depp, I know he's a creep. I know he's a creep. I don't like Johnny Depp. I'll be honest with you. Never have. I never liked him when all the women were gaga over him on 902, what was that? 21 Jump Street, which was his big splash on the scene. I was like, what is it that you think that he's such a great actor for? I've never liked any of his acting, with one exception of Pirates of the Caribbean. That was the only time, and it's the first one only. That's the only role that I thought he was halfway decent in. As an actor. The rest of his stuff, I'm sorry. I just don't think it's that was that great. Can somebody explain this to me? You want to talk about reining in the federal government again? Bezos' Blue Origin wins NASA's astronaut moon lander contract to compete with SpaceX's Starship. Blue Origin has demonstrated crashing far more than even Elon Musk's SpaceX. And yet you giving this guy money for a program which they have yet to prove they have the ability to actually get anywhere. Why would you give this jackass a contract? I'm serious about this. Bezos' Blue Origin group has not demonstrated competency in spaceflight yet, to any degree. You can argue about this latest thing about SpaceX and that large starship which had they had to blow up in space. They had to blow up on in the flight, which I suspect is going to be a problem. There's I don't know what people know about space, the space rockets and so forth, right? Elon Musk's attempt to use the Raptor type engines, okay, which are a modification of the N1 engines from Russia, okay. Yeah, technology has improved a lot, but it hasn't improved that much yet because when you start using multiple engines, yes, you can get a higher output. Yes, you can get more efficiency, lift efficiency, and so forth. But you have really, really, really complicated the system. And it's an exponential complication, not a linear one. And as a result, multiple engine rockets, the more times you go past 4 engines to a rocket, you end up with constantly rockets not making it at a much higher rate, all right, a much higher failure rate as they go up. Now, how does the N1 engine work? The N1 engine and the Raptor engines, the new ones they've been trying to work with, basically take some of the fuel to use as part of the engine as pressurization. So basically, it becomes far more efficient. And I'm not going to go into the process because it's somewhat complicated and boring for people who aren't interested in it. Okay, but basically, you're using part of the exhaust of the engine to do things, all right, which make the engine that much more efficient for heating and pumping and doing the other things that an engine needs. When you use that kind of circulation, however, you run the risk across a wide spectrum of where problems can creep in. It's not just that you're adding to the plumbing, which you are, right? But you're adding to the complexity in such a way that it's very difficult. And when you're talking about taking the exhaust from a fuel exhaust, think about how hot that is. Okay? You're not dealing with a fan blowing. All right? But with all that even being said, Bezos's Blue Origin hasn't shown shit at least Musk, you could see progress. Every time Musk keeps moving these rockets forward, you're seeing more and more progress. Show me what Blue Origin's done. All right, that's at a 50% pass rate. Now to the perversion section of today's storylines. First story: homeless man charged with hate crimes for defecating on 2 LGBTQ pride flags. NYPD. Isn't this just expression of speech? A homeless man has been charged with several hate crimes for defecating on an LGBTQ pride flag and wiping his behind with another at a Manhattan restaurant, according to the NYPD. Fred Innocent, what a name, 45, walked into Buco 95, a tapas bar, right? I'm not even sure what that is, right, on West 95th Street and Broadway, Upper West Side, on April 15th at 10 a.m. As the day crew was setting up, he grabbed 2 rainbow flags off of a table, cops said. He relieved himself on one of the banners, according to the police, and then cleaned himself with another. How is this a hate crime? Well, we won't go into liquid hydrogen storage because there's a lot of things I can talk about that. But anyway, how is this a hate crime? Tell me. How is this a hate crime? And this thing, we support everyone no matter what their kind of background, race, or lifestyle, said Barrel, right? Courtney Barrel, the restaurant's owner. Really, Courtney? What would happen if somebody came in there waving an American flag? Is it okay? Is it okay to defecate on an American flag? To burn an American flag? That's freedom of speech, according to you friggin' clowns. But that's not hate speech. But if they do it on a rainbow flag, oh, that's hate speech? Really? Here's some good news. Sort of. An Illinois girl vanished with her mother 6 years ago. Now a teen, she was just found in North Carolina. For 6 years, loved ones with the public helped search for Kayla Unbihan. Unbihan? I'm not trying to butcher your name, lady. All right, after she was allegedly abducted by her non custodial mother in Illinois. Now, 15 years old, she has been found safe over 600 miles away in North Carolina and is now reunited with her father in Illinois, the Asheville Police Department. Samantha Booth told CNN on Tuesday. Kayla was 9 when she was abducted by her non-custodial mother, Heather Unabom, from Chicago suburb in South Elgin, Illinois, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children said. Kayla's father, Ryan Exerta, had won full custody for her in 2017 with Unabom allowed supervised visits, he told CNN affiliate WBBM. But when Exerta went to pick up his daughter that July 5th, he learned that the pair had never returned from their camping trip. The felony warrant for kidnapping was issued for Unabom in 2017, according to the nonprofit center, which helps families look for American kids who are taken by relatives or strangers or run away. Nearly 360,000 reports of missing children were made to the FBI in 2022 alone. It said, noting duplicates are possible. Then, Saturday evening, Kayla was spotted at a shop in Asheville by someone who recognized her from an episode of Netflix's Unsolved Mystery series about parental abductions. That person notified a store employee who then called the police. Unabom was arrested Saturday and was held on $250,000 bond awaiting extradition, all right, in Buncombe County, North Carolina. She was bonded out Tuesday morning and released. Meanwhile, a circuit was overjoyed. His daughter is home safe, and he said in a statement through the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, thanking the organization and law enforcement agencies for spreading the word about the search for her. I want to thank all the followers of Bring Kayla Home's Facebook page who helped keep her story alive and were instrumental in spreading awareness. Japanese auto manufacturer is trying out hydrogen fuels. It's kind of neat. I'll talk about it. One of these days. I'll talk about that in a science thing. Um, it's good that this girl was found, and she's back with her father. It's breakups and things like this are bad, but they are what they are. There's not much you can do. Okay, there really isn't much that you can do about the situation. All right, as we continue with the pervert section and the other news from Toronto, Canada, an anti-capitalist pay-what-you-can cafe in Toronto closes after 1 year of business. Say it isn't so. Color me surprised. A self-described anti-capitalist cafe and coffee shop in Canada named The Anarchist with a pay-what-you-can business model will close at the end of the month after just over a year of business. Huh! Sounds like a galactic star cruiser, doesn't it? Right? Toronto shop, which opened in March of 2022, will close May 30th, its owners announced in a statement, blaming a lack of generational wealth / seed capital from ethnically bankrupt sources. Oh, God. In other words, you ain't making shit. You know the thing about, like, selling service? You sold shit. you tried to give it away. The cafe offered drip coffee to customers with a pay-what-you-can price tag while charging for other beverages like espresso and tea drinks, as well as breakfast pastries to subsidize the lost revenue. And people said, no, I just want the coffee. I want the free coffee. And they walked out. Right? It's also allowed the public to use its restroom and hang out in the storefront without making a purchase. Oh, yeah. What a business plan. The store also carried a selection of radical books, art, pins, and t-shirts, and more for sale. And nobody wanted to buy it. What a surprise. The so-called anti-capitalist cafe shop and radical community space on stolen land, all right, raised eyebrows when it first opened. Ah. There is there's a song. Uh, what's the stupid band? It's an Australian band. I'll think of it in a second. Let me just look it up. Oh, goodness me. Midnight Oil. Okay. And the song is, the world is burning. How can we sleep when the world is burning? Or something like that. Right? Where they go on this tirade about how they've stolen the land of the Aborigines and that it's time to, to give it back. Right? Well, my question, just a second, folks. My question was a knock at my door. My son eats coffee. Uh, just so we can understand what's going on. My question is if you think that you want to pay for this and do what's fair and give the money, say that the land was stolen from them and it needs to be given back to them and all this other stuff, right? Well, here's my thing. I would take all the land that they're going to sit up there and take all the people who lose their property because you're giving it back to the Aborigines. I would take all those people and then I would give them all the assets of Midnight Oil. All of it. Well, we're going to do what's fair, right? Fair is fair. These people don't deserve to have their homes taken away from them. Right? Well, that's what you're doing. These people who own the land don't deserve to have their land taken away from them. Right? The problem with this kind of stupid philosophy is, how far back do you want to go? Who was there before the Aborigines? We don't know. Because the Aborigines exterminated them. And which Aborigine tribe did what, when, and where? If you're going to try to apply that, for example, to the United States, right? The wars between the Native American tribes are legendary, right? And they're legion. So when you talk about, oh, they stole the land, it was their land to the present. If it was their freaking land, okay, then by the rules of the Native Americans or the Native Australians or the Aborigines at the time, is you had to fight to keep your land. And we took land away from you because we fought you and we won. So since that was their attitude and that was the standard at the time, what are you bitching about? Now, if you want to use today's philosophy, you can't then go back retroactively and play the game of, well, who did what, when, where, back 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, 120, 130, 300 years ago. You can't friggin' do that. There's one thing to sit up there and try and give reparations to people who were harmed. Who were harmed at the time. There's a difference, though, if you're trying to play the reparations game to people who have never, that were not alive when that supposed harm took place. Because they've never gone through that harm. Now, they may not have something that they may have had or may not have had, okay, if that harm hadn't taken place in the past. But you can say that about every single person on this friggin' planet. There is no perfect way out here. There's no perfect solution to these things out here. To think that somehow there is, it's just myopic, folks. It's just stupid and myopic. And when you get idiots like this Toronto group, oh, it's all communism. Yeah, you see how communism works? Communism never works. Why doesn't communism work? Because that's not how reality works. What is and isn't there depends on things. All right, let me explain something else. Okay, you go out and you see desert, and you say, okay, I'm going to make a claim to this desert because nobody lives here. All right, because it's desert. And people all around you go, that's stupid. It's desert. You're not going to be able to live. There's nothing out there. You're purchasing sand. And then what happens? Somebody finds oil underneath that sand, and all of a sudden now, oh, you stole it from the people whose land it was before. No, they didn't steal it. Okay? Nobody was caring about it. Nobody was living on it. And technology changes all the time. And it forces lifestyle changes. And to say that people aren't being forced to have lifestyle changes, all you got to do is look what the leftists are trying to sit there and do with the LGBTQ bullshit in freaking Florida to understand it. I'm going to say one more thing, too, as an example of this. We have tons of nuclear waste material from nuclear power plants. Tons of it. Do you know that the federal government doesn't own any of it? Do you know that the private companies that built those plants have ownership of that nuclear waste and refuse to sell it? Did you know that? Now, if nuclear waste, if there's potential, that kind of potential in nuclear waste where people are willing to let it sit for decades without doing anything with it because of its potential use, that should tell you something. Parents call police after Illinois teacher offers LGBTQ book to her students. An Illinois teacher of over 20 years had the cops called on her after she gave middle school students the option of reading books about sexuality and gender. Sarah Bonner held a book tasting for students in March and offered an array of fiction and nonfiction titles, including Juno Dawson's This Book is Gay, which quickly became the epicenter of a massive controversy when parents called the police over the book choice. I wanted to give them a smattering of fiction and nonfiction. No, Bonner, you weren't doing that. You were pushing pornography onto children because that book is filled with pornography and everybody knows it. This is the problem with these teachers. They're not trying to teach people, all right, or teach your kids, all right, about reading, writing, and arithmetic. She's trying to teach 8th graders, okay, about homosexuality and how everyone should love one another and everyone should be having sex with one another. The notion that I was putting children in danger because of books. I didn't feel safe, Bonner told her. I couldn't go back. This woman, and she received in 2019 a teacher, National Council of Teachers of English Award for Outstanding Middle Level Educator. You're an activist. You're not an educator. You're an activist. You're a propagandist. And you're trying to groom children. You're a child groomer. This woman should be banned from schools and never allowed to be part of the schools again. They're banning me. It's this heightened thing. Yeah, well, who's heightening it? Who's heightening these tensions? Bonner? You know who's heightening tensions? People like you and people like this guy. Sam Brinton, arrested for being a fugitive from justice. What a surprise. The former Biden administration nuclear official who was axed last year after he was caught red-handed in a string of luggage theft was arrested at his home this week, police confirmed. Sam Brighton, 35, was taken into custody at his home in the Rockville, Maryland at 10 p.m. Why are you doing it that late? I don't know. Wednesday, the Montgomery Police Department told the Post Thursday. Brinton is currently in custody pending charges of grand larceny stemming from allegations of stolen property at the Ronald Reagan National Airport that the department learned of in February of 2023. The lawyer for Tanzanian fashion designer Aisha Cashman later told the Post that charges were related to her missing suitcase. Really? This guy, and here's a picture of him for all those people who want to know what he looks like. This is a guy It's not a him or her or a they or a them. All right, this is a guy in a dress. He's a degenerate, and he's a criminal. She wants to be safe from consequences of grooming children. That's very true. The hell is it? Let's go on to the next story. We only got a few stories left. Let's get through these. Cops. Woman defecated on church altar. Ohioan 26 faces a felony for desecration of a hospital chapel. So not only did you have to do this in a church, you had to do it in a hospital. An Ohio woman has been charged with desecration after she allegedly defecated on a church altar, police said a police report. According to the criminal affidavit, Laura Minyard, of 26, went to the chapel at Cincinnati's Good Samaritan Hospital Saturday and defecated on the altar. Right? Minyard's seen at the right allegedly used a fabric runner on the altar then wiped herself. Minyard, who lives in a Cincinnati suburb, then took a picture from the chapel, pictured below, of the smeared feces on the altar table. She is being held with an initial bond of $2,500. All right? These people are degenerates. This woman is a degenerate. There's no other way to describe what she is. Coco the gorilla. Not exactly. Gorillas display remarkable resilience in the face of difficult adversity, even more so than humans. From Ann Arbor, a new study reveals that gorillas display a remarkable resilience that exceeds that of humans and other species. Typically, most species that encounter significant adversity early in life tend to face greater hardships as they age. Many animals even experience shorter lifespans or health complications, suggesting the presence of an underlying biological mechanism. However, researchers at the University of Michigan have found that gorillas who survive beyond the age of 6, right, appear largely unscathed by the difficulties experienced in youth. So, if they're so adaptable, why are they on the endangered species list? If these things are able to face or have remarkable resilience to in the face of adversity, even more so than humans, why are they going extinct? I thought they were resilient. This has got to be one of the dumbest studies I have ever even heard about. And who the hell paid for this? You and me, we get tax dollars because these guys work for the University of Michigan. Prior studies by Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund, a charity dedicated to protecting endangered mountain gorillas, has also observed that young gorillas show surprising resilience when losing their mothers, unlike many other species. Just, just stop, folks. Stop. Just stop. I don't have a problem with trying to protect endangered species, especially gorillas and other things, right? I have some problems with the way certain people go about it, but that's I don't have a problem with trying to save a species of the planet. But don't do a stupid study and then try to say, "Oh, they're more resilient than humans," and then do things like See, when they lose their mothers early, they're more resilient than a human. You're humanizing an animal. Okay, you are trying to place human characteristics on an animal that isn't human. Stop it. Okay, I've heard of inflation, but no. World's most expensive ice cream costs $6,696 per serving. Can you imagine a gallon of this ice cream and what it would cost? I think inflation may be out of control, folks. And right along there's another story right here. A Philadelphia restaurant sets gold standard with a $700 burger. A Japanese ice cream company has assembled some of the world's rarest ingredients to create an ice cream flavor that costs $6,696 per serving. The Guinness Book of World Records announced Japan's Japanese brand Salato earned the record for the world's most expensive ice cream with its new flavor labeled Byakuya, which I assume is crazy. Right? The pricey treat's ingredients include a rare white truffle grown in Alba, Italy, that costs $6,905 per pound. All right. It also includes Perigino Regado, I don't get it. Sake lees. I don't know what those are. All right. Gelato developed the flavor with Tadayoshi Yamada, all right, the head chef at Osaka's restaurant Rivi. The company said it sought to combine European and Japanese flavors into something unique. This means you're too rich, folks. If you're going to eat an ice cream with a price tag of $6,000 or close to $7,000 for just a scoop, you're insane. Okay, you got way too much money. Way too much money. Final story of the day. Folks, I've warned you folks for a long time now that the creatures in the wild are plotting. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the creatures in the wild are plotting, and the head plotters are squirrels. I know that you guys don't want to believe this, but Secret Squirrel was a cartoon that was developed in the 50s to get us used to the squirrel overlords. It's a plot. It has been out there for a while. How can you say that, old man? Where are you? Are you insane? Okay, don't believe me. Squirrels and a mongoose bully a cobra. Ground squirrels and a mongoose gang up and bully a cobra in an attempt to protect their young. A fascinating sighting took place in the Nasobe campsite in Botswana. All right, Laura D'Amatos was fortunate to get a video of the sighting. Annette Smith took these amazing photographs and shared the story with sightings.com. I'm telling you, if the squirrels are tough enough to take on a freaking cobra, all right, they're plotting more, and power grids that keep going out because of squirrels. I'm telling you now, it's a wide-ranging plot, folks. It's a wide-ranging plot. And they're getting other animals involved. They had a mongoose involved in this. You know, the mongoose is just, Ricky Tikki Tavi was just going out there to have a meal. But ground squirrels aren't known for taking on a cobra. I'm just putting it out there. They're getting aggressive. All right, everyone. Hope that you had a good day. I'm done with the show for right now. Take it easy, everyone. Talk to y'all later. Bye bye, everyone.